After 10 years of being a DINK couple, my husband's lover got pregnant. He didn't ask her to have an abortion. Instead, he told me he wanted to become a father. I had two options: first, take $300 million in compensation and divorce; second, remain his wife, with this child counting as mine too, a pain-free path to motherhood. Everyone in the Alexander family thought I would choose the second option, given how much they knew I loved Alexander. Yet I chose the first option without hesitation. No particular reason. I've been reborn. In my last life, I spent my entire life fighting Alexander's lover, and in the end, the foundation I built still ended up in the hands of her son. If I had another chance, I'd rather slack off. Take the money, live the life of a wealthy woman, learn from Alexander, and keep a few young men around for fun. In my past life, I worked myself to death. When I found out Alexander was cheating, I was so angry that hatred surged in my heart like wildfire. For 2 days and nights, I didn't sleep, meticulously crafting a revenge plan. First, I sidelined Alexander, seizing control of most of the conglomerate. Then I launched sweeping reforms, multiplying my shares 4- or 5-fold. Scarlett, Alexander's mistress, and their son Tristan were utterly crushed by my retaliation. They hid abroad, too afraid to return or even contact Alexander. Not a single member of Alexander's family dared to challenge me, including Alexander himself. I thought I had won. But by the age of 45, due to health reasons, I still hadn't been able to conceive again. In an attempt for artificial insemination, I underwent countless injections. Combined with the relentless demands of my work, my body finally gave out, and I suddenly died while on a business trip. Before my remains could even be buried, Scarlett returned to the country with her son. Alexander, her, and Tristan embraced each other in tears, as though they were the victims of some great injustice. Meanwhile, my ashes and portrait were casually tossed into the trash. Watching Scarlett eagerly move in and Tristan take over my company, I finally realized that my entire life had been spent sewing wedding gowns for others. At night, Scarlett had a pillow talk with Alexander. With tears in her eyes, she said to him, "Darling, I'm so sorry for all the hardships you've endured these 20 years. You secretly got a vasectomy for me and even orchestrated Vivian to work for our son. Thank you, my love, I adore you so much." Alexander kissed Scarlett on the forehead. "Scarlett, I love you too. You've been with me since you were 20, and I'd do anything for you." I finally understood why I couldn't get pregnant no matter how hard I tried. Alexander had gotten a vasectomy long ago. A mix of regret and indignation welled up inside me, leaving me feeling like my entire life had been one big joke. The moment I opened my eyes again, I was back to when Alexander confronted me. He had just returned from a business trip, still wearing the suit I specially ordered for him, sitting on the sofa with a commanding presence. Alexander sighed. "Vivian, let's part on good terms. Scarlett is pregnant. Although it was just an accident, she's given me everything. I can't let her down. I'm going to marry her and keep this child, so I can only wrong you. Besides the $300 million compensation for the divorce, you can also purchase the stocks in your hands at market price. Additionally, the villa we live in now and the cars at home will all be yours. All these years, I've let you down." To be fair, the terms Alexander proposed were really quite generous. If one didn't love this person, it would almost be a windfall. But I've known him since I was 18, and we married when I was 20. When Alexander was building his business, I worked alongside him to manage the company. Later, when his parents grew older and fell ill, I stepped back to take care of the elderly at home. I never imagined Alexander would stab me in the back, let alone aim for the fatal spot. That's why I hated him to the core in my past life, spending my entire existence seeking revenge on him. Now, staring at my 30-year-old reflection in the mirror. The slight exhaustion around my eyes, proof of cooking for his parents and managing the household. The outdated clothes, a sign of frugality for Alexander's hard-earned money. I reeked of the stereotypical housewife. My heart trembled with a pang of self-pity. How did I let my life turn out like this? Why didn't I know how to enjoy it? Lost in thought, Alexander repeated his divorce demand again. His tone carried impatience. Just as I was about to issue a warning, a cool, composed voice replied, "Fine." Alexander was taken aback. "What?" he asked. I responded, "Fine, I agree to the divorce, and I also agree to let you buy back my shares at market price, Alexander. Let's part on good terms." Perhaps stunned by my decisiveness, Alexander stared at me for a long moment. Then, after quickly mumbling, "Good that you agreed. Tomorrow, I'll have the lawyer contact you," he hurriedly left. I took a deep breath and turned around to see my in-laws on the second floor. They already knew about Scarlett's pregnancy and had come to see if I would make a scene. Seeing how decisive I was, their expressions turned somewhat awkward. With a forced smile, my mother-in-law pushed my father-in-law to turn around and leave. Left alone in the living room, I reflected on the fact that I had been reborn. Alexander's secretary worked quickly. Within just a week, Scarlett dared to set foot in our home. In my past life, Alexander pitted her for being young and shielded her well, so I rarely interacted with her. Now, suddenly facing the 20-year-old Scarlett, I felt an inexplicable resentment. But I tried to hide it. I knew this was all Alexander's fault. Scarlett was just the fly that happened to stick around. She was treated like a treasure, surrounded by everyone. My mother-in-law, who had maintained a cold expression for a decade, smiled warmly at someone for the first time. She kept feeding Scarlett fruit and touching her belly, looking utterly comforted. I didn't go in to make things worse. Instead, I retreated to the car and called Alexander. "Send the secretary out, I'll sign the papers in the car. Since you've already given me the villa, have your parents move out tomorrow. I don't like outsiders in my home. Transfer the money to my account first, and we'll handle the equity transfer as soon as possible. Once it's done, we'll file for divorce." On the other end, Alexander didn't speak for a while, then let out a mocking laugh. "You're quite straightforward. As if I were only after the money." I didn't respond to his remark. There was no point in starting a conflict with him now. The priority was to settle things as quickly as possible. Perhaps my attitude irritated him, or perhaps Alexander didn't want to wrong Scarlett. A month later, I received compensation totaling nearly $800 million, along with a divorce certificate. Right after getting the divorce papers, I listed the villa for sale online. Alexander had been following me and grabbed my arm when I almost stumbled. He even looked somewhat guilty. "Vivian, what do you plan to do now?" I was pondering the price of the villa and didn't quite catch that. "Huh, what? What are you planning to do?" "Me?" I looked at him strangely. "I'm planning to get a haircut and buy some new clothes. After all, divorce is like a rebirth, shouldn't we celebrate it?" Alexander was taken aback, his expression turning cold. "You're still as stubborn as ever. Though we couldn't make it as a couple, since we've known each other for so long, I still want to give you a piece of advice. When I was younger and financially struggling, I carelessly decided to be DINK, double income no kids, completely unaware of what it would mean. As my parents age and my own career flourishes, I've come to realize how important having children truly is. I know you resent your dad for cheating and your stepmom for being abusive, which is why you're stubbornly refusing to have kids. But Vivian, life is so long, without your own bloodline, you'll be terribly lonely in old age. I just didn't want my parents to miss out on a grandchild, or to be unfilial, which is why I chose to take responsibility for Scarlett. I hope you understand." He babbled a lot, and just then, the ride I had called arrived. I calmly pulled my hand away from his and got straight into the car. Then, before the car drove off, I gave him the universal gesture of friendship. "Alexander, cheating is cheating, stop dressing it up as something noble. No matter how you spin it, Scarlett is still the other woman, and that child of yours is still illegitimate. Nothing you say can change that fact. I'm so happy to divorce because I don't have to deal with you and this mess anymore. May the bitch and the dog be together forever. Goodbye, never see you again." Cursing Alexander felt incredibly satisfying, and the divorce didn't affect me at all. Maybe I had already exhausted all my love for him in a past life. Now that we're separated, it just feels like cutting out a piece of rotten flesh, so utterly relieving. The day after finalizing the divorce, I went to a high-end salon for a perm and dyed my hair a daring color I'd always wanted. In one go, I bought dozens of new outfits, completely revamping my wardrobe. When I saw the fresh, youthful version of myself in the mirror, tears unexpectedly welled up. Vivian, you're so beautiful after all. All these years, you've suffered. The account held a dazzling 9-figure sum, with interest accruing even if nothing was done. For the time being, there was no urgent need to earn money. After lying on the sofa for a while, I deleted Alexander, his parents, and relatives one by one, left the family group, and removed most of Alexander's friends too. My contacts list became noticeably cleaner. As I scrolled through, I spotted Harper, a friend who owned a bar. After some thought, I gave her a call. Having been so busy with family life, I rarely reached out. The abrupt call surprised her. "Hey, Mrs. Rich, what brings you to me?" I smiled slightly. "Divorced, now please call me Wealthy Vivian." "OMG. Harper exclaimed, "Really? Where are you? I'll come pick you up now." Her nosy intentions were obvious. Half an hour later, having heard the whole story, Harper looked at me with unspoken words. I quickly stopped her. "Don't feel sorry for me, I'm loaded now." "Harper, you make a good point." She wiped her face. "So, what do you want to do now?" I smacked my lips. "Well, ever since Alexander got together with Scarlett, it's been 2 years since I've had any action. You know a lot of people, any clean-cut, healthy studs you could send my way?" "A couple would do." The moment I mentioned finding male escorts, Harper got excited. Within half a day, several profiles were sent to me. At first glance, the one with the cleanest vibe was Gabriel, not just because of his looks, but also his background. He was actually a top student from University A. Such an outstanding young man, why would he want to take the wrong path? I raised an eyebrow and told Harper to bring him to the hotel that night. In the evening, at the presidential suite of Xinghao Hotel, I met 23-year-old Gabriel for the first time. He was tall, with even more striking features than in the photos, slightly tanned skin, and a faint anger lurking in his eyes. Drawing from years of interview experience, I could tell at a glance he was the model student type. He was dressed in a shirt and dress pants, his whole body stiff as a board, his face flushed with shame. Unfortunately, I wasn't feeling particularly charitable. All I wanted was to have my fill. I walked over and lifted his chin. "You, called Gabriel?" Gabriel gave a bashful His youthful demeanor delighted me. He was incredibly handsome, clear eyes, long upturned lashes, and rosy lips, like a captivating temptress. I pinched his chin, forcing those deep-set eyes to meet mine. "Your asking price is $500,000, which is actually quite steep, to be honest. But I like you and am willing to pay. Whether you can walk away with the full amount depends on your performance tonight." Gabriel took a deep breath. "Don't worry, sister, I'll serve you well tonight." His hands were trembling violently, his ears flushed red all the way down to his neck. When he kissed me, he was so inexperienced that his teeth scraped my lips. I couldn't help but laugh softly. So pure, so clean, so adorable. I turned and pinned him down, unbuttoning his shirt one button at a time. "Little brother, you're lucky. This is my first time hiring a male model, and I don't have any particular fetishes. I just haven't had meat in a very, very long time, and I want to comfort myself, to release some stress. After tonight, you'll get what you want." Gabriel let out a muffled groan, his hands instinctively gripping my waist as he lost himself with me. The next morning, I woke up refreshed and full of energy, while Gabriel was still asleep. I left the card on the bedside table, kissed his cheek one more time, and got up to leave. Decisive as I was, I didn't notice the moment the door closed. The person on the bed shed a tear. Nor did I ever imagine that I would have any further entanglements with Gabriel. The second thing after Rebirth was to utilize information asymmetry to invest in some projects. Money can never be fully earned, and I won't risk my life to make it again. But investing in promising projects and earning through shares isn't a bad idea. I sought out Lucas, my former executive assistant from my past life, who was still working like a beast of burden at another company. I lured him over with a high offer. When I mentioned looking for projects, Lucas hesitated nervously. I have absolutely no experience in this. Why do you trust me? How should I explain it? Was it that even after I died in my past life, he still fiercely protected my rights, standing against Tristan? Or was it that he ended up being blacklisted in the industry, living a rough life, and even on his deathbed refused to bow to Tristan? I didn't give Lucas much, just an annual salary of over $1 million, not even a company car, yet he remained loyal to me to this extent. During the days when my soul wandered the mortal world, I felt deeply guilty about this. I took a deep breath and blurted out a lie, because I have innate spiritual insight and saw your tremendous potential. Just focus on finding people and projects, I'm not investing randomly. If something suits, we'll discuss it further. Don't stress yourself out so much. Only then did Lucas accept it and start working seriously. He was truly capable. Within days, he handed me a project. This is a game my university junior made with his team. It was about to launch, but then a big company copied it and crushed them so hard they can barely survive. I've examined their underlying logic and found that whether it's smoothness or visual effects, they're completely different. The copycats can't compare. It seems they even want to suppress first and then acquire. If there's a chance to collaborate, I believe we could definitely profit. Vivian, would you like to take a look? So, half a month after our separation, I saw Gabriel again, this time as an investor and an investee. Gabriel walked into the agreed-upon coffee shop, wearing a somewhat cheap-looking suit. The moment he pushed the door open, his lips turned deathly pale. His pupils shrank as he fixed his gaze on me, looking absolutely terrified. Soon, I discovered why he was afraid. Because trailing loosely behind him were 3 or 4 people, all calling out, "Gabriel, why aren't you moving?" Gabriel's back was covered in chills as he walked in stiffly. I spoke gently, "Don't be afraid, I won't bite you." Gabriel instantly flushed from ear to neck. Luckily, none of his burly subordinates noticed. The project introduction went smoothly, and I was quite interested in the game-lost path that Gabriel and his team had developed. Given time, it was sure to make money. Catching Lucas's eye, I signaled him to pass over a contract. This is the cooperation model our boss envisions. Please review it. We'll invest $5 million for a 40% stake in your company. Future revenue sharing will follow the dividend distribution model. This is just a preliminary version, you can take it back to discuss first. Once you've decided, we can proceed with the partnership. Gabriel kept studying me without speaking. Sensing they might need to confer, I excused myself to use the restroom. When I came out, I found Gabriel waiting outside the door. He looked extremely awkward. Haltingly, he said, "Thank you for today." I knew what he was about to say and cut him off decisively, though I don't know why you took that wrong path before, seeing how well you've built this startup proves you're fundamentally a good person. Don't worry, what happened between us stays in the past. Starting today, we're just business partners. Take the investment and do your best, just make sure to transfer me a decent share of the profits later. From now on, Lucas will handle all company communications. I won't disturb you or cling to you, just focus on being the leader you're meant to be. I'm not someone driven by desire, and I especially dislike getting entangled romantically with those who can help me make money. Gabriel may be handsome, but with money, there are plenty of men to choose from. There's no need to stir up trouble over this. After Vivian left, Gabriel was lost in thought for a long time. He'd initially taken the wrong path out of desperation to pay for his grandmother's heart surgery, only to later sink into despair upon realizing this person was his investor. He'd been terrified his disgrace would be exposed, branding him for life. Yet Vivian had indifferently assured him she wouldn't cling to him. In that moment, Gabriel's heart was filled with bitterness and a sour ache, emotions he couldn't quite name. After completing the investment in Gabriel's project, I took the liberty of getting Lucas a car and rented an office for him to handle daily operations. As for myself, I decided to go out and enjoy some time off. Whether it was just bad luck or not, I randomly chose a seaside destination and ended up running into Scarlett and Alexander. They had already gotten married, flaunting their grand wedding banquet. Now, in Alexander's circle, I'm seen as a laughingstock. Scarlett must have forgotten her place too, because when we bumped into each other face to face, she seemed rather smug. Covering her lower abdomen, she looked at me triumphantly. "Oh, isn't this Vivian? Long time no see, how are you? Traveling all alone, couldn't find a man?" I couldn't be bothered to acknowledge her. My mind was occupied with where to go play later. Out of the corner of my eye, Alexander's gaze kept wandering over me. After 10 years of marriage, I could instantly recognize that poorly concealed look of admiration in his eyes. Then again, Alexander was never quality goods to begin with. After Scarlett got pregnant, she probably overdid the postpartum recovery, though her looks remained intact, her whole body had noticeably swollen. In contrast, there I was, sleeveless dress, the luminous waves, and head-to-toe refinement courtesy of heavy spending. Within just 15 minutes of sitting there, I'd already been approached by 5 or 6 men asking for my contact details. Alexander wasn't special in that regard. Naturally, he couldn't resist either. After yet another college boy asked to connect, Alexander, who'd just seen Scarlett back to their room, finally scurried over. He blocked my way with a displeased expression. "Vivian, what are you doing? They're hitting on you, why did you agree?" "Because I wanted to. If I like it, of course I'll agree." Alexander's face turned red, and he gritted his teeth. "You're divorced, how can you be so casual?" I almost laughed, pressing my index finger to my temple. "I don't understand what you're saying. Doesn't divorce mean I'm free? Why can't I look for men? Why are you so worked up? What, you want to get in line too? Heh, too bad I'm not interested in rotten cucumbers. You're not qualified. Hurry back and take care of your little pregnant woman. Now that you're a father, stop thinking about doing such shameless things." As soon as I finished speaking, a guy wearing swim trunks and a tank top walked up to me. "This beautiful lady, may I have the honor of inviting you to soak up some sun by the beach?" It wasn't until Vivian's figure disappeared that Alexander finally got up and headed back to the room. By the time he reached the door, he was still lost in thought. Scarlett was already awake, sulking on the sofa. At the sight of Alexander entering, she immediately snapped in a cold voice, "Alexander, where have you been? Did you go looking for that little slut?" Alexander froze for a moment before realizing that he and Vivian had already divorced. The pregnant woman standing before him was now his newlywed wife. He couldn't help feeling a pang of regret. The swollen-faced, fiercely glaring woman before him looked unbearably ugly. Alexander distinctly remembered choosing Scarlett precisely because of her curvaceous figure, sweet and gentle demeanor, and soft-spoken charm, so unlike Vivian, who was always buried in housework and never bothered with makeup. How had she become so unrecognizable in just a few months? An irrepressible irritation surged through him. His mind kept circling back to Vivian, who had walked away with another man. Vivian became charming and alluring after the divorce, with her fair skin and voluptuous curves that few men could resist. She took a walk with that guy. What came next after the stroll? Would they have dinner, kiss, and get intimate? Alexander felt as if his heart was steeped in vinegar, the sourness nearly soaking through it. Utterly exasperating. Scarlett, sitting on the couch, was no stranger to these matters. How could she not tell that Alexander's mind was wandering? She immediately connected it to his recent encounter with Vivian and knew he must be regretting it 90% of the time. Her head buzzed with anger. In a fit of rage, she grabbed an ashtray and hurled it at him. The hard glass hit Alexander's foot with a sharp, throbbing pain. Alexander couldn't hold back any longer and cursed, "What the hell are you doing? Are you out of your mind?" Scarlett rushed over and slapped him twice. "That's right, I'm out of my mind, watching you flirt with your ex while I'm pregnant with your child. Alexander, this baby in my belly is yours. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have gotten pregnant so young. And now you're being so half-hearted? How dare you treat me like this? You shameless old man. The moment the words old man left her mouth, Alexander's expression grew even darker. He took a deep breath, and when he faced Scarlett again, there was no trace of gentleness. Almost instantly, an overwhelming aura of authority radiated from him as he looked down at her. Scarlett, think carefully about what you're saying. There are plenty of women who'd gladly bear my child. If you don't want to, feel free to get rid of it, I won't force you. Turned around and left without another word. Scarlett panicked, wanting to chase after him, but accidentally tripped and fell. Something warm was trickling out. She screamed in pain, calling Alexander's name, but he never looked back. Blake and I strolled along the beach for 2 hours. The young man had a silver tongue, making it impossible for me to suppress my smile. He even insisted on taking photos of me, complimenting me as he did, saying I looked like a fairy. To repay the emotional support, I gifted Blake an LV bracelet. He was overjoyed, and on the way back, he sweet-talked me into posting it on my social media. Big sis, you're so pretty, you should totally show it off, he said. Is that so? Doesn't seem like anything's wrong. So under Blake's guidance, I sent a few live photos. At the hotel lobby, Blake kept insisting on seeing me up to my room. That wheedling tone was quite intrusive. But I don't trust people whose backgrounds I don't know, afraid they might be shady. So I subtly hinted with restraint, Blake, be good. I'm a bit tired. Let's hang out next time. My tone was gentle, but my eyes held no warmth. The perceptive Blake immediately got the message. With reluctant resignation, he settled for just asking for my contact info. Back at the hotel, I had just changed my shoes when Gabriel called. His voice was a bit low, carrying a barely perceptible magnetic quality. Did you go see the ocean by yourself? Me, yes. The other end fell silent. Not wanting to jeopardize our professional relationship, I said, is there something you needed to call me about so late? If it's work-related, you can coordinate with Lucas, he's more up to speed. Gabriel interrupted, no, it's not about the company. He took a deep breath. Yes. I wanted to see you. The way a man looks at a woman. I licked my lips, torn between reason and desire. Gabriel, do you realize what you're saying? You once said yourself that you didn't want anyone to know you'd slept with me. I know. Gabriel's voice grew even lower, I know what I'm doing. I want to see you, is that okay? Honestly. I'm also craving him. Though Gabriel is slightly lean, his physique is actually quite impressive, and since he was my first, I can't help but feel a little nostalgic. Okay, but right now, I'm in Beihai, and you can't exactly come over. The next second, there was a knock at the door. Gabriel's voice came through the phone, open the door. It's hard to describe how magical it feels to be in your 30s, opening the door and seeing the young man you adore standing there. All I remember is the moment I saw Gabriel, I immediately rushed over, leaped into his arms, overwhelmed with excitement. Gabriel held me tightly too. His arms, locked around me, felt burning hot against my skin. His thin lips brushed against my ear, his tongue teasing my ear canal. My dear, I missed you so much, I really, really missed you. I was so entranced by him that my breath turned rapid, barely able to hear what he was saying, and lifted my head to kiss him. More than 4 hours later, the two of us soaked in the bathtub, finally finding time to talk. I asked him, why did you come? Gabriel paused for a moment, I saw your post on Moments, I was afraid you had someone new. Ah, now I remembered the live photo Blake took in the afternoon, which must have recorded his voice. I clicked to listen, and sure enough, there were several calls of sister. Can't help but laugh, so you actually came? Gabriel buries his head in my neck, yeah, I don't want you to have another man. For a moment, I'm at a loss for words. After all, I just wanted a bed partner, not to get emotionally involved. So I push his head away and say seriously, Gabriel, I have to tell you something. I just got divorced, and in this dazzling world, it's hard to stick to just one guy. Having dealt with Lucas for so long, he must be well aware of my situation. I just got divorced, ending a 10-year relationship with the man I loved. There's no way I could fall for someone else so quickly, especially not someone 7 years younger than me. After a long pause, Gabriel said, "I'm not asking for any kind of commitment. I just like you and want a fair chance." He looked at me, his gaze so intense it almost burned my heart. I couldn't bring myself to say anything harsh, so I just patted his head and said, "The most I can promise is that when I'm with you, I won't be with anyone else." Although I phrased it subtly, Gabriel still sensed an opportunity. He returned to the company and transferred another 20% of the shares to me. His explanation was simple: adults express their intentions with money. I remained non-committal. No one turns down money, and honestly, I'm not exactly a saint either. Gabriel truly excelled at managing the company. The moment Lost Path launched, daily active users surpassed 10 million, with recharge revenues hitting hundreds of millions. In just a few months, the once struggling college student entrepreneurs had become the hottest rising stars. As the company's founder, Gabriel's net worth skyrocketed. To celebrate, the company threw a grand banquet, where I sat at the head table as an investor. Gabriel sat beside me, and next to him was his grandmother, who had just recovered from a serious illness. She held my hand and chattered on, and that's when I learned that he had sold himself for $500,000 to cover her medical expenses. I should have realized it sooner. Someone so outstanding wouldn't have sold his body unless it was to save a life. For the first time since my rebirth, I felt guilt. If only I had asked one more question, I could have preserved a good man's dignity. But driven by selfish motives, I ended up destroying him. I couldn't sit there any longer, even regretting why I had entangled myself with Gabriel. Even if he didn't blame me now, what if he regretted it later? Would he, like Alexander, come to see me as a thorn in his side? Would I have to engage in battles of wits with him too? I really can't fight anymore. Through 2 lifetimes, all I want is to slack off, have simple relationships, and be happy. Watching Gabriel finish his speech and step down from the stage, I stood up and walked away. With a cold expression, I said to Lucas, "I have something to take care of. I'm leaving first. Handle the rest for me." Then I briskly walked out of the banquet hall. Just as I reached the elevator, Gabriel caught up to me. He looked flustered. "Vivian, are you upset?" "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have forced you to meet Grandma. I was wrong. Let's go home, okay?" I stared steadily at that youthful face. Since the company's steady growth, Gabriel had increasingly taken on the demeanor of a boss. Even Lucas remarked how rapidly Gabriel had improved, his presence growing stronger by the day. I sighed, hearing my own cold voice. "Gabriel, let's end this." Gabriel froze. "Why?" "We're not a good match," I said decisively. "I told you long ago we should have just stayed business partners, nothing more. Now your company's making money and you can live well on your own. We should cut it off here." Gabriel misinterpreted my meaning. I know I'm not wealthy enough right now, sis. Just give me more time, I swear I'll accumulate enough fortune to match you." He was trembling violently. As I watched him, my guilt only deepened. Such a sincere and wonderful person, falling into my hands, into these scarred hands of mine, was unfair to him. He deserved a younger, more vibrant girl to accompany him through life. I took half a step back, creating distance between us, and said to Gabriel very seriously, "No need. Even if you eventually become wealthier than me, I would never date someone who started as a male model. Gabriel, even though what happened between us remains our secret, as far as I'm concerned, you'll never have a chance with me." The moment I finished speaking, Gabriel's face turned deathly pale. A chilling aura lingered around him for what felt like an eternity before he finally replied, "I understand." I overstepped. He turned and walked away, his speed tearing at my heart. I pressed a hand to my aching chest, feeling almost amused. How amazing, living nearly 70 or 80 years, yet still capable of being wounded by love. I tilted my head back, forcing the tears to retreat, letting them carve icy trails inside my heart. Vivian, a person shouldn't stumble twice in the same place. You must look forward. I began preparing to settle abroad. While going over company matters with Lucas, Scarlett unexpectedly sought me out to announce she was getting divorced. I studied the woman before me, who had noticeably lost weight, momentarily at a loss for words. Scarlett, however, had plenty to say. Mostly blaming me for wrecking her marriage. Then she started speaking. You know what? I had a miscarriage, and it's all your fault. If you hadn't seduced my husband that day at the hotel. I raised my hand to stop her. Hold on. You came all this way just for that? Yes. I want you to know how despicable and shameless you are. I stood up, grabbed my bag, and walked away. Oh, I don't want to hear it. I'm out of here. Scarlett was left standing there in a daze. Shortly after, she called again. Vivian, how can you be so carefree? I slammed the phone down and blocked the number. So annoying, not a single word worth listening to. My time is too precious to waste on scumbags. No way. Before leaving the country, I had Lucas transfer most of Gabriel's company shares back to him, keeping only 10% for myself. Perhaps the move was too abrupt, because Gabriel finally caught on. He frantically called me, but I blocked him straight away. As the flight time approached, my stomach churned uncomfortably, and I spent ages vomiting in the bathroom, my head spinning badly. An older woman watching me said, "You might be pregnant, aren't you?" It suddenly dawned on me that my period had been absent for quite some time. I bought a pregnancy test, and as I stared at those glaring 2 red lines, my mind went blank. It's not that I don't like children. On the contrary, I feel the responsibility of raising a child is too heavy. I'm afraid they'll end up unhappy like me, afraid they'll suffer, which is why I didn't want one in the first place. That night with Gabriel got a little out of hand, and thinking it was my safe period, I skipped contraception. But as the saying goes, careful plans often go awry. I, who had originally planned to be child-free, ended up with a baby of my own. I wavered for just a few seconds before decisively choosing to keep the child and ditch the father. After all, I'll be settling abroad, no one would know if I secretly had a baby. I never thought Alexander would come after me. Somehow, he found out about my trip abroad and flew straight to my villa. Seeing me sunbathing, he rushed to me instantly. "Vivian, I've finally found you." I looked at him. "Oh, what do you want?" Alexander was agitated. "I divorced Scarlett. She accidentally lost the baby, and there was no point in continuing with her." I didn't understand. She can always get pregnant again. She's so young, of course she can bear children. Alexander let out a frustrated grunt. "She's not worthy." "Vivian, I've finally realized that it's still you I love. You don't know how chaotic things have been since you left. Dad's health has been declining, Mom is always sighing in despair, our whole family can't function without you. Vivian, come back, won't you?" Truth be told, during these days since the divorce, I've heard bits and pieces about what's been happening in Alexander's family. His parents initially treated Scarlett very well, which made her grow arrogant from their favor, turning the household upside down. The elderly couple's health was already fragile, and after all this turmoil, it shaved several years off their lives. When the long-awaited grandson they had hoped for was lost, their disdain for Scarlett only deepened, and they grew more determined to drive her out. But what does any of that have to do with me? I'm not some spineless fool. I smiled, touching my belly and said, "Alexander, you're too late. I'm pregnant." Alexander froze for a moment before asking, "Who's the father? Is it some pretty boy?" "No, I paid for it." Not wanting to explain further, I immediately pushed him out the door. "Don't come back. There's no chance of us getting back together." Alexander still refused to give up. "No, Vivian, you can terminate the pregnancy. We can have our own child." He spoke with conviction. "Yes, we'll have our own children, 3 of them, to inherit the family legacy. After all, we've been together for 10 years now." We're as close as family, no one knows each other better than we do. Alexander, if you're sick in the head, go get treatment. Don't come here and act crazy. I never realized before just how selfish this person could be. To even suggest aborting a life. I couldn't be bothered to deal with him anymore and told the security not to let him in again. Clenching my anger, I stormed back into the house. A few months later, Lucas sent me a message saying Gabriel had started dating someone, and their relationship was progressing quickly. They might even get engaged soon. After hearing this, I felt a heavy weight in my chest. This discomfort sank from my heart to my stomach, finally triggering my full-term baby. After a night of pain, I finally had a child of my own blood, completely mine. I named my daughter Nova. Her eyes resemble Gabriel's, her nose and mouth resemble mine, and she has an exceptionally easygoing personality. When Nova was 5, something came up at work that required me to return to China. Although I no longer allowed Lucas to share news about Gabriel, it was almost certain he had already become someone else's husband. To avoid causing him trouble, I deliberately chose a conference venue in West City, nearly 100 miles away from South City. But the moment I stepped into the hotel, I saw Gabriel walking arm in arm with a woman in the lobby. He looked more mature and handsome than before, wearing a black coat that turned heads as he passed by. I hid in the corner, not daring to make a sound. Because on the other end of the video call was my daughter. I had originally planned to wait until Gabriel finished the formalities before going over. But as luck would have it, the moment I turned around, our gazes collided. His eyes, now deeper than before, swept over me with a quiet intensity. After a long pause, he said, "Vivian, long time no see." Then he gestured to the girl beside him, "This is my girlfriend, Elena." "Elena, this is Vivian, a shareholder in our company." The girl named Elena gracefully nodded in greeting to me. There wasn't a trace of hostility in her gaze. I felt a pang of sourness for just a few seconds, then inexplicably felt a sense of relief. I had always remembered the promise I made to Gabriel back then, and with being so busy raising children in recent years, I hadn't given much thought to such matters. Now that he's moved on, perhaps I can start looking for someone new too. Bidding farewell to Gabriel and Elena, my mind was a mix of emotions. Lost in thought, I didn't notice. After the elevator doors closed, Elena looked at the man beside her in confusion. "Gabriel, why did you say I'm your girlfriend?" Gabriel stared at the closed elevator doors and remained silent. Astute as he was, he certainly hadn't missed the fleeting look of relief on Vivian's face. That expression ignited boundless rage within him. 5 years, he had been trapped in this quagmire for 5 years, yet Vivian remained utterly oblivious. She was even happy that he had found someone. Gabriel clenched his fists involuntarily, afraid he might rush forward and strangle that heartless woman. I returned to my room and began packing my luggage. My daughter would be here soon, and there was no way I could let her run into Gabriel. Nova is practically a mini version of Gabriel. If he saw her, he wouldn't even need a DNA test to know she's his. Grabbing my suitcase, I thought about switching hotels. As I stepped into the elevator, I ran into another familiar face, Blake. He looked surprised when he saw me. "Oh. Long time no see. Long time no see." He sidled up next to me, clearly intending to tag along. Though I'd been thinking about finding someone new, this playboy was more than I could handle. I was just trying to think of an excuse to make him leave. Unfortunately, Blake was overly enthusiastic, following me all the way to the underground parking lot and even attempting to get into the passenger seat. The moment his hand touched the car door, a dark figure suddenly appeared, yanking him backward by the collar. Blake was startled. "Who are you?" Gabriel's face was as sour as shit. "None of your business. Vivian and I have something to discuss." "Get lost." Blake was confused and wanted to charge forward, but Gabriel's menacing expression made him back off. After Blake left cursing and grumbling, I turned to Gabriel. "Gabriel, what's the meaning of this? Already have a girlfriend, yet you show up looking all jealous and drive away the man by my side, what's that about?" Gabriel remained silent. Seeing him like this, a wave of irritation rose in me. To avoid causing trouble for him, I had deliberately chosen this godforsaken place for the meeting. Running into him was bad enough, but then he had to pick a fight with someone around me. How dare he keep making a scene like this? Too fed up to say another word, I walked to the driver's side door. Just as I was about to pull it open, someone's hand pressed against it, stopping me. Gabriel's tall frame loomed over me as he pressed down, lowering his head to capture my neck, kissing me hard. Tugging, biting, his scorching lips and tongue stirring within my mouth, my nerves were instantly thrown into chaos. Just as I was about to speak, Gabriel's hand slipped under my clothes. My mind buzzed, exploding into a frenzy, and I couldn't help but let out a muffled moan. Just when I thought things would spiral out of control, he suddenly stopped. Burying his head in the crook of my neck, he cried. Scalding tears dripped down my collar and onto my skin, stirring an inexplicable guilt in me. Wait, why was he crying again? He was the one who kissed me aggressively. Gabriel held me in a death grip, choking back sobs as he wept. Vivian, no matter what I do, are you still unwilling to give me a chance? It's not fair, I only modeled once, but that guy just now was a gigolo. You'd rather talk to him than pay attention to me, why? My first time was with you, there's no one else in my heart. Why won't you give me a chance? My voice was hoarse, don't you already have a girlfriend? His big head swayed from side to side as he hugged me tighter. I was teasing you, wanted to see you get jealous. Turns out you didn't react at all. Gabriel slightly raised himself, his eyes red as he looked at me. Vivian, can't you see me? I've really been trying so hard. The company now has 9-figure annual revenue, I bought houses and cars, and invested in several projects. I know you don't like people who play around, and I've kept myself clean all these years just waiting for your return. Since you're thinking of finding a man, can you give me a chance, sis? I really miss you so much. I felt guilty, truly. Seeing him crying so pitifully made my heart ache. I couldn't bring myself to say anything harsh anymore, my tone softened. Alright, I'll give you a chance. The truth is, I haven't been with anyone else all these years either. Joy exploded in Gabriel's eyes. He took a deep breath and immediately tried to hug me, but I held him back and handed him the phone instead. Since we're in a serious relationship, there's something I must tell you. What? I had a child, and half of its genes are yours. Gabriel froze, taking a long time to process what that meant. He smacked his lips, speechless. I took out Nova's photo and showed it to him. The child is already 5 years old and looks a lot like you. She's on her way here, so you can meet her soon. The pregnancy was an accident, and I'm sorry for not informing you. If it bothers you, I can compensate you in some way. The dazed Gabriel finally showed some reaction. How are you going to compensate me? I shrugged my shoulders. Beauty or money, your choice. He took a deep breath, lost in thought. After a long pause, he suddenly chuckled softly. Haha, the woman I love truly isn't ordinary. I've always wondered what's been haunting me all these years, why I've been so obsessively unable to forget you. Vivian, you're incredible. No woman has ever been as carefree as you. He lowered his head and bit my neck, leaving behind a strong scent of blood. From now on, such a heartless woman belongs to me. I stared into those bloodshot eyes, flickering with inexplicable excitement, which in turn stirred a chaos within me. I wanted to laugh, yet also to scream. Tipping my head back, I kissed him directly. Gabriel, I'll give you a chance to conquer me. Whether we can last long-term depends on your performance. 3 years after returning to Nan City, I ran into Alexander again at a cocktail party. By then, his company was suffering massive losses due to poor management, and he was hoping to turn things around by landing a big deal. And the client for that big deal happened to be the company I was running. So when I saw Alexander approaching with a drink, I paused in surprise, feeling a sudden urge to laugh. He probably felt embarrassed too and coughed lightly. Vivian, long time no see. Yeah, long time no see. I turned to leave but was pulled back by Alexander. Can give me that contract?" He actually had the nerve to ask for it outright. I laughed in disbelief and looked at him speechlessly. "Alexander, what makes you think I would easily hand over a contract worth hundreds of millions to you?" He gasped for breath. "After all, we've been married for so long, there's always some affection between us." "Affection? Ha ha ha, what a joke. Alexander, surely you haven't forgotten how you cheated on me back then." I just couldn't be bothered to argue, but that doesn't mean I forgot. Alexander froze awkwardly for a moment. That was so long ago, and Scarlett and I are already divorced." As if remembering something, he said, "By the way, I heard the CEO of this group is single, which means you're still alone, raising the child by yourself. Vivian, what do you think? Since I'm single now anyway, why don't we get married, merge our companies, and work together to grow our businesses even bigger and stronger? It's a win-win, right?" I had no idea how his thought process had twisted into this, and I was too tired to respond. But Alexander got even more worked up and tried to pull me in to keep talking. Just then, Gabriel walked over, wrapped his arm around me, and planted a loud kiss on my cheek, successfully leaving Alexander stiff as a board. Gabriel looked at him with amusement. "Mr. Alexander, what are you saying to my girlfriend? Can I hear it too?" Alexander couldn't utter a single word. I observed with amusement the jealousy on someone's face beside me and reassuringly squeezed his palm, only for him to grip it tightly in return. Can't even take my eyes off her for a second, always flies buzzing around. This guy, seriously. I couldn't help but lean over and give him a kiss. Only then did Gabriel cheer up a bit. I seized the moment and said, "Let's go. Nova is still waiting for us at home." "All right, let's go." A few months later, I heard that Alexander's company had indeed gone bankrupt. He sold his house to pay off debts and took his parents back to their hometown. Before leaving, he still wanted to see me, but I completely ignored him. Alexander waited downstairs for a long time before finally leaving dejectedly. Returning home in the evening, Gabriel kissed me for a long time before finally letting go. He pressed his forehead against mine, his voice low and hoarse, as if squeezed from the depths of his throat. "Vivian, these years. I've waited too bitterly." I raised my hand to touch his face, my fingertips brushing against the moisture at the corner of his eye. Suddenly, I felt something inside me collapse. "Sorry," I whispered. "I used to be a jerk. I was afraid I wasn't good enough for you, even more afraid of dragging you down. But now I realize the one truly dragging you down was my own damn insecurity." Gabriel held my hand, intertwining our fingers so tightly it almost hurt. "I don't mind that the child was an accident. What bothers me is, why did you carry this alone for 5 years? I smiled bitterly. "I'm afraid you'll hate me, afraid you'll think I ruined your life." "Ruined me?" He chuckled softly, his laughter thick with emotion. "Vivian, you saved me. Do you know? That 500,000 saved Grandma's life, and you gave me the will to keep living." He paused, his voice suddenly turning solemn. "Vivian, I want to marry you, not because of the child, but because I love you. In this lifetime and the next, I will only love you." My eyes grew warm, and the bridge of my nose tingled with emotion. Having lived 2 lives, no one had ever loved me so unreservedly. I rose onto my tiptoes and kissed him. "All right then, Gabriel, you can marry me." Our wedding was a quiet affair, attended only by our closest friends and family. Nova stood at the front in her little dress, holding a flower basket and scattering petals, her tiny voice shouting the loudest, "Daddy! Mommy! May you have a lifetime of happiness." Gabriel bent down to pick her up, kissed her on the cheek, then turned to look at me, his eyes shining. "Darling, you're so beautiful." On the night the wedding ended, after Nova had fallen asleep, Gabriel held me as we sat on the balcony. The night breeze was slightly cool, and he enveloped me in his arms, resting his chin on my shoulder. "Vivian, do you remember what you said back then?" "Which line?" "You said to give me a chance to conquer you." I turned my head to look at him. "What, wasn't I conquered thoroughly enough?" He chuckled low and kissed my earlobe. Thorough enough. So now it's my turn to be conquered by you for a lifetime. I leaned against his chest, listening to his steady heartbeat, and suddenly felt that all the hardships in this life were worth it. In my past life, I fought all my life and ended up with nothing. This time, I chose to let go, but unexpectedly gained the whole world. It turns out that only by letting go of hatred and learning to love oneself can one truly attain happiness. And now, I finally have it.